Across the world, space technology has been deployed for national security, communication, industrialization, and sustained socio-economic development. Since the launch of Nigeria's first satellite into orbit, not much has been achieved with space technology. On this week's edition of the program, we take a look at the nation's space technology. Hello there, thank you for joining me on the program this week. I'm Gloria Umezuki. Since 2003, Nigeria has launched 5 satellites into space to boost agriculture production and environmental monitoring. Now, space technology can also be deployed in the fight against insurgency. Now, how much has that been maximized in the country, Nigeria? My guest is the Director General of the National Space Research Development Agency, who talks about the nation's space technologies effort. Now, coming up next. The federal government wants the National Space Research and Development Agency to intensify research efforts that will address Nigeria's peculiar challenges. Take a listen. The National Space Research and Development Agency was established in 2001 to pursue the development and application of space science and technology for economic benefits. At the 16th Annual Space National Dialogue in Abuja, the Director General of the Space Development Agency enumerated the economic potentials of the sector, but insisted that it's time to review how the center has fared since inception.
The West African market is estimated to be about 200 subscribers. That in itself is more than enough market. The annual space dialogue also provides opportunity to submit ourselves for peer review.
But a former Vice-Chancellor of the University of Lagos, Professor Ibidapo Obe, believes space science can address the challenges confronting the country, including security.
Our challenges of health, there are modules. Sometimes I wonder when we talk about some of our current challenges, and somebody will say, oh, Nigeria does not know where the cheaper girls are. I find it very difficult to believe. Of course, we all know where the cheaper girls are, but we are afraid of collateral damage. So it's quite clear, and this is because of satellite images that we have.
I would like to use this opportunity to ask NASA to intensify their research in areas that will show creativity and help us solve peculiar problems to us.
The National Space Center had in 2003 launched the first satellite, the Nigeria Sat-1, into space. 4 years later, another satellite was launched. However, many still argue that the effects of those efforts are yet to be felt. I had a conversation with Professor Saidu Mohammed on the challenges and potentials of Nigeria's space technology. Professor Saidu Mohammed, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you, Channels.
We know that Nigeria launched about 5 satellites into the orbit in 2003. Can you really confirm now that just 3 are functional?
Recall that in 2003, the first optical satellite in sub-Saharan Africa was launched. That is called the Nigerian Sat-1. And it was launched for a lifespan of 5 years. And because of good management, the satellite lasted for about 8.5 years and was deorbited some few years back. And I also recall in 2007, the first Nigerian communication satellite was also launched, which is Nikom Sat-1. Unfortunately, after 18 months, it was deorbited because of solar panel. And subsequently, in 2011, 17th of August, 2 satellites were launched, Nigerian Sat-2 and Nigerian Sat-X. Also, you need to recall that Nigerian Sat-X was the one designed and built by Nigerian engineers and scientists. Both of them are doing pretty fine. They've been orbiting in the last 4.5 years, and they are still sending images down. And on the 20th of December that year, the replacement for the communication satellite earlier lost was replaced. So if you look at this, in total that's about 5 satellites. Yes. But out of these 5, 3 are currently in the orbit. Nigerian Sat 2, Nigerian Sat X, which are both optical, and Sat 1R, which is a communication satellite.
Is that adequate for what we need the satellites for?
For a big country like Nigeria, yes. A population of 180 million, and not only that, a regional hub, you should note that in the next 3 or 4 years, the population of whole of West Africa will be about in the neighborhood of 350 million people. So the question is, what do we consider adequate? We require satellite for a number of things.
Well, how many do we really need at the moment?
It is difficult to say what exactly the number will require, because these things are supposed to be sequential. But as it is, certainly the whole market here is covered by international satellites. So to that extent, for us to actually talk about the ideal satellite, number of satellites we require, we still require up to 3 to 4 communication satellites to be enough for us in Nigeria and the whole of West Africa. In addition to that, for the optical satellite, that is the one taking images. You know that the one we launched about 4.5 to 5 years ago are now aging because they are designed for 5 to 7 years. We should expect that the Nigerian Sat 2 will last for another 2 years, and the Sat X may last for another 1 year. It is obvious that the promotion in Nigeria today is commercial agriculture. What that means will be large-size farms, and we need to do more monitoring, because you cannot trek around a farm and assess them actively. So what we require is a synoptic view from satellite to be able to assess their fertility level, and from time to time also check extent of irrigation and effectiveness of this irrigation water. So to that extent, we require more optical satellites. Not only that, Nigeria more and more becoming vulnerable to disasters of various sorts. We require satellites that can also see in the dry season and also see in the rainy season. You realize that 60% of Nigeria at the moment is covered by cloud, and the type we currently have in the orbit are the ones that are optical. It means they cannot see through the cloud. We require a synthetic aperture radar satellite, which is also detailed in our 25-year roadmap for development of space science and technology in Nigeria. So
apparently we're not making full use of the satellites we have.
The Sat 2 has the camera 2.5 panchromatic, that is black and white, and 5 meters multispectral. We also require submitter for various activities, particularly when we need to predict how much of crops are being expected from various ecological zones in Nigeria. We must realize the fact that the responsibility of new administration to look inward, which means reduce import of rice, reduce import of wheat. It means that we require more and more higher resolution satellites that farmers can use. Certainly not the local farmers, but the new efforts by the Dangotes cultivating more rice, and others cultivating more wheat will require most of these activities. One, to be able to plan, look at the soils in itself, detailed soil mapping, do soil characterization, and also look at issues of land evaluation to appropriately plan for our country.
Hold on with your thoughts. We're still with Professor Saidu Mohammed. We'll be right back on issues to do with space technology. Join us again.